All right, we're given that cosine of 38 degrees equals 0.65, and we need to find cosine of some other angles. And so we're like, how do I even start that? Well, let's first think about what 38 degrees looks like. So here we go. I've got 38 degrees drawn down here. And then I drew the reference triangle. Remember reference triangles, they follow this bow tie. So you're always going to go down to the x-axis, okay? Now, when you're finding cosine or sine or tangent of any angle, you don't actually find it of the whole angle. You actually find it of the reference angle. So if I have an angle that's larger than 90 degrees, I actually find the reference triangle and find the cosine sine of the reference angle, okay? So that's really important here because that's what we're going to be thinking about. So here's 38 degrees there. Now let's draw 142 degrees because we're trying to like figure out how are these related, right? Okay, so here's 142 degrees. Now here's where it becomes important. Remember I said if I have one of these bigger angles, to find the cosine or sine of this angle, I would actually find the reference angle and find the cosine or sine of that reference angle. Okay, so remember the reference angles are always part of the bow tie, so I'm not going to go this way. That wouldn't make a bow tie, right? I need to go down to the x-axis. Okay, and so actually to find the cosine of 142, I actually need to find the cosine of this reference angle right here. Well, 142 plus what equals 180? Oh wait, that'd be 38 degrees, wouldn't it? Weird. So to find the cosine of 142, I'm actually finding the cosine of the reference angle, which is 38 degrees. And I know the cosine of 38 degrees, don't I? It's 0.65. But wait, there's more. Remember that the cosine uses the adjacent side, or the x, right? The cosine uses this adjacent side, or the x. Well, is this x positive or negative here? It would be negative, right? And remember, cosine uses adjacent over hypotenuse, or x over r. And so r is always positive. So this would be a negative over a positive. So this would be, the number would still be the same. It would still be 0.65, but it would be negative because we're using a negative x value. Okay, let's look at another one. Cosine of 218. Again, let's draw this angle. It's going to go down here somewhere, right? 218 degrees. Let's draw our reference angle because remember, we don't actually find cosine of 218. We find cosine of the reference triangle or the reference angle. Okay, so here's our 90 degree. And let's see, this is 180. Oh, look, that would also be 38 degrees. So when we find the cosine or the sine of 218 degrees, we're actually finding the cosine or sine of this reference angle, which is 38 degrees. We already know that. That's 0.65. But again, we have to ask ourselves, now this uses, remember, it uses the adjacent side or the x and the hypotenuse or the r. And this is going to be negative in here because we're in that third quadrant where x is negative. So this is going to be negative. Okay, last but not least, we have 322 degrees. Okay, so this one's going to go all the way around to somewhere in here in the fourth quadrant, right? Again, we're going to draw our reference triangle, part of the bow tie, so it's got to go up to the x-axis. We don't go over this way, right? So we think, what is this reference angle that's in the middle of my bow tie? Well, let's see, 322 degrees. So it goes 322 degrees. How much more do I need to make to 360? You got it, 38 degrees. So I'm still finding the cosine of 38 degrees because remember, I'm finding the cosine of that reference angle. So what is the cosine of 38 degrees? Well, I know it's 0.65. Now I ask myself, this is using the x or the adjacent side. Now in this case, the x is positive, so this one is a positive 0.65.